Like, I do think you're right, Katie, that there's going to be an interesting fight about who ends up being her running mate. I don't really care. I mean, yeah, they'll pick somebody. I feel like the Democrats have a really good bench right now. And, maybe they'll pick Mark Kelly. Maybe they'll pick Pete Buttigieg. Maybe they'll pick Andy Beshear. Maybe they'll pick Gretchen Whitmer. Maybe they'll pick Raphael Warnock. I mean, Wes Moore. I don't know. Pick somebody. Maybe they'll pick John Tester. I don't know. I just feel like any of those would be great. Kamala Harris is going to be the next president.
You don't think they need to focus on Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and pick somebody from one of those states to ensure winning that state?
If picking somebody from one of those states ensured winning those states, then you would do it, right? But I think what they need is obviously has to be somebody who Kamala Harris believes is qualified to do the job of president, right? That's the most important qualification. Has to be somebody who's a really good campaigner. Has to be somebody who has personal chemistry with the nominee, and it has to be somebody who's got chops for both doing the job and winning the job. And I just feel like there's a lot of really good options. And the fact that this contest, however, she's going to make this decision, is going to be one from a position of strength. I mean, you can feel the Democratic Party consolidating, right? Right now, as we sit here, you can feel it coming together. And that momentum means she's going to be choosing from a position of strength. And the next 3.5 months are just going to be lights out in terms of this campaign against Donald Trump. Donald Trump thought that he did not need to worry about winning this election because he thought that he was running against Joe Biden. And while Joe Biden has had a very good record as president, he was presenting himself as enfeebled in a way that was going to be very difficult for this campaign. Because he thought that he didn't really even have to compete very hard to win, he picked J.D. Vance. He picked somebody who isn't going to help him at all. The Republicans were going to win Ohio anyway. They did not need a 39-year-old ultra-conservative guy who idolizes Viktor Orban to try to consolidate new votes for Donald Trump that he wasn't otherwise going to get. And they picked J.D. Vance because they wanted him to govern the way that they wanted him for governing, not for campaigning. And Kamala Harris, I think, gets to pick somebody for both, and that's a better position to be in.
They wanted him for governing because he is aligned with Donald Trump, or the idea of Donald Trump that conservatives are pushing on policy. And one of those ideas is abortion. Donald Trump has said that he believes it should be left up to the states, but the apparatus behind him doesn't believe that. Project 2025 is saying that use the Comstock Act to ban the abortion pill from being shipped nationwide, ban the tools needed for the abortion procedures, ban them from being shipped nationwide across state lines, use the FDA to make the abortion pill even harder to get. J.D. Vance is somebody who said in the past that he believes in a federal abortion ban. I thought it was so interesting, Rachel, being at the RNC last week. Abortion didn't come up. They didn't talk about abortion at the RNC. Not once. Not once. And that is exactly what Kamala Harris has been campaigning on day in and day out for about a year now.
Yeah, and J.D. Vance. Project 2025 is really something on women's rights generally and women's role in the country and in society and in politics. It's really something. But, just look at J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance signed on to a letter that says that prosecutors should be able to get women's medical records from out of state to pursue prosecutions for abortion. So if you live in a state where abortion is banned and you travel to California or New York or Illinois or someplace else to get an abortion in a state where it is legal, J.D. Vance wants prosecutors, law enforcement in your state to be able to get your medical records against your will from somewhere else you went in the country to pursue you across state lines so they can use your medical records in prosecutions. J.D. Vance on abortion is the worst case scenario you would invent for a barroom argument, for an in-arguendo discussion with your friends about how bad it could possibly be. They picked J.D. Vance because they thought they had this election in the bag. And then Joe Biden did this today, and now it is an absolutely different ballgame. And J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are going to lose in November, and Donald Trump is going to regret picking J.D. Vance as his running mate now that he's up against Kamala Harris.
And J.D. Vance also at one point said he was against no-fault divorces, saying it's too easy to get divorced. And that's what has enabled women historically now to free themselves of some pretty violent marriages or just bad marriages. The idea that you can go in and say, it's not working for me any longer, I'd like out. He does not believe in that, where he said in the past.
He's explicitly said a woman in a violent marriage shouldn't be allowed to get out of it, specifically talking about violent abuse by a husband. He thinks a woman should be made to stay in that marriage. I mean, this
if you're
is
talking
not
about
what America's going to vote for.
Don't you want to see a woman debating J.D. Vance in a vice presidential debate? Do you? I mean, you have a Kamala Harris going after former President Trump now in a debate. If it happens again in September, let's see if the debates change. But wouldn't the positions that J.D. Vance has taken on abortion, on divorce, on violent marriages, wouldn't that be, you know, the red carpet being rolled out for a Gretchen Whitmer to stand there next to him and to say, here's what you believe?
I mean, sure, but given what he believes, I mean, I'd be happy to watch a protein shake debating him. Like, I don't think it matters. I mean, any Democrat who can talk about those are issues, the kinds of issues where J.D. Vance has taken the kinds of stands that you and I have just described over these last few minutes. Those are not 50-50 issues in this country. They are not 60-40 issues, 70-30 issues. He's taken the kind of stances that single digits of Americans support. You do not need any type of Democrat in particular to prosecute a case against J.D. Vance. He is a real weirdo from a really, really, really narrow slice of the very far right side of the ideological spectrum. They picked him because they didn't think he'd have to be defending himself at all.